Okay, so the compilation is true. So what I'll simply do is I'll refresh this. So when I refresh this, you see we have no error here again. So, and we also have a blank page because we've not done anything here. But let's just say we say hello to you as well. Okay, we'll say hello to you and we save this. Now when we save this, there's one funny thing about this is since we'll save this now, if we still come down here and refresh our page, nothing will happen because of the fact that this little change you made here have to be recompiled again before the application will see the changes we've made. Okay, so due to this, for those of us that are not used to working with this uh, run npm stuff, uh, what you just need to do here, instead of running the npm run dev every time you make a little change, what you simply need to do is run npm watch. Okay, now when you say npm run watch, what it will do is anytime you make a change and you save, that is when it will compile just that change and reflect it on your user interface. Okay, so what I'll simply do here, I'll simply do run watch. Okay, that's npm run watch. Okay, so after running the watch, we'll see what it's going to do and what makes it different from the npm run dev. Okay, so compiled successfully. So now if we come and refresh this, we're going to see the change we made. Okay, so now what we're simply going to do here now is if we say, let's say we'll come down here and say we change this, let's say changed the info, and I save. Watch what happened here. Automatically it compiles, and when you refresh, the change you made will be reflected. Okay, so that is how we're going to be working. Now let me just recap on what I did here, what made it different from the other one, and this is what we're going to be working with. Okay, now the thing is, instead of working with the view just like here, I'm going to leave all these things so that when I update the repository, you're going to see them, but you should know what they are. Okay, we're not going to need them in our application. We'll remove them later, but I will just leave them so that you still go through them. Maybe try one or two things out yourself. Okay, so unlike these guys that will return the view, this time around we'll return the initial JS, which will render a page from, instead of rendering a page from this view folder, remember all of them are in resources, to render the page from this pages folder that is on uh, that is on the JS folder also in the resources. Okay, so on the resources we have the CSS, we have the JS, we have the lang, which is the language, we have the view. Okay, but instead of working with the view, in summary, we'll be working with the JS. Okay, so on the JS we'll create our pages here. Okay, but for now I don't require you to create a page because I'm going to create a structure where I will now assign you individually to what you do for me. Okay, so maybe we'll work with this page, okay, that I've created now. Okay, so this is what we're working with now. I'm going to talk about, I'm not just going to use this page like this. Should I use it? No, let me just talk about the structure at once. Now if you watch, there is a layout folder. I'm going to talk about this individually. Okay, I'm going to talk about them individually, but let's just focus. Like I said earlier on, I'm trying to narrow it down to what we need first. As time goes on, we're going to talk about the different, some of the folders that we're leaving out for now. Okay. So this layout folder, if you watch what we have here, we have an app layer.view here. This app layer.view is simply like a template of how the app is going to look like, but this one is working only with the dashboard, which we already have here. If you look at what is on the dashboard, you're going to see that we have a component, sorry, uh, an element called app layout. This element called app layer is simply imported from this layout app layouts. Just as you can see, layouts folder as an app layer on it. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're not going to use anything relating to the dashboard, so we're going to create our own layout. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is that, let me close this. On the layout, I'm going to create a new file. Let's call it our web layouts. Okay, dot view. Okay, when I create this web layout of view, now what I'm going to do here, I'm also going to create or simply what I have in this page, just like this. Now, in any view file you create, you're going to create the template element, and on the template element you have a div on it. Now, okay, now the template element only works with one div, or it might not be div, it can be any element at all, but it should be one. Okay, because I cannot come here and create another div here. No, it's wrong. As you can see, it's even flagging error for me. So the template element will work only with one. Now, why we use the template element is that when Vue is trying to render any file, it renders it as a template. If there's no template element in it, it's going to give me an error that the template is missing. Let's see. Let's not try with this. Let's try with this one we already have here. Okay, so let's remove the template element here. As you can see, color conversion has changed. Okay, so let's see if we'll have any error here. You see, a fade to mount component templates. Okay, so you see we already have an error. So anything we're going to do, we are going to cover any page you're creating, you're going to cover with the template element. Then on the template element, it only have one child, so there should be one child in the template element. Then every other thing you do will be inside this child. Okay, so now what we're going to do here now is just, we're not creating just a div on the page. Now that we have a web layout, okay, now the web layout will be like the structure of our page. Okay, the structure of our page. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in that structure here. Okay, remember the name we called it is web layout. So first thing first, we're going to create a script tag. Now before the export default, we're going to say import. Okay, import statement. Now what are we importing? We're going to import this web layout. We're going to import it the way the way we named it. Kind of, we're going to follow the naming convention. Okay, you can see web layout. Okay, no, it's not a must that we must follow the naming convention. But if we are not following the naming convention, there's something we're supposed to do here on this web layout. Okay, let me not complicate things. Let's just leave it now. I'm going to show you that later on as time goes on. Okay, but for now, we just have to make sure that we use the name according to how we named it as web layout. Now we'll import it from layout slash web layer. This is it. Okay, so when we do this, now this is just importing it into this our page. Okay, Now, if we after importing it in our page, we're still going to let the application know that this thing we're importing is a component. Okay, so in our export default, we'll simply say components, okay, as an object, because we are exporting an object. I believe we understand that this is an object, like for those of us that are not really conversant. I believe I've taught you in JavaScript, an object is denoted with the curly brace, while an array is denoted with the square brackets. Okay, so what we're simply returning here, we are returning, we are exporting an object that will house everything about the application. Okay, so here what I'm trying to do here now is I'm trying to define the components that this application is working with, that is the external component. So the component will also be an object, and I will define this web layout as a component. That means I'm importing a component called web layout. Okay, now this component web layout that I imported, I can use it as an element simply by saying web hyphen layout here. If you watch, according to the naming convention, the web layout, if you watch this L here, is a capital letter. This denote that where you have the capital letter, you can represent with an hyphen and work with lowercase here. The same way, I can also do this. I can also say, if I want to use it exactly the way it is, I can also say web layout, and it will still work well for me. Okay, so if I do this, it will still work well for me. Okay, but the problem we are having here now is, remember I said the template must have just one child, so let's put a child here and put both of them there. Okay, so now let's see. Now I've saved this, and as I've saved this, my sorry, an error that occurred there. So let me just quickly run the watch again. So when I save this, this is going to compile and reflect this my web layout, since I'm importing them into this page. Okay, so anything I have here of this my web layout is going to be on the page. Okay, remember what we are actually visiting is the page. Okay, so now since what we're visiting is simply the page, now if I put something like this is my layout, okay, here, remember what I did here, I put it in the web layout, but we are going to see it on the page. Okay, so now we have to wait for the compilation to be concluded, because I had an error trying to compile here, unknown error. So anytime you have something like this, you just have to press Ctrl C and you run the watch again, so it will compile again. Okay, so this thing is taking too much of our time. Okay, so when we refresh this, we find out that we have this twice. Okay, so we have it twice because we brought in the web layout element into our page twice. Okay, so if I comment this, we'll see we're going to have it just once. That means that one is working. Also, if I comment this guy, it's going to come in once as well. Okay, that means both of them are working, but I prefer, if you're working, you have to work with this guy. Okay, I just prefer this for some reasons. Yep. So now you see that what we have in our web layout is here, is what we are seeing on our page. So now, why I said this is a structure, for those of us that have worked with Laravel before a little bit to understand what that means. But for those of us that are new to it, why I say this is the structure is because anything that is general to your pages, different pages that you're going to build, will be on the web layout. Why the additional things that will be different according to pages, the pages you're going to work with, will be on the individual page. Like for instance, if I create anything here, let's say I create a header, let's say a header, and I say this is a header, or let's say I have h2 here, and I say heading, for instance. Oh God, I have that error again. So what I just have to do, Control C, and I'll run watch again. Okay, so now as I wait for it to compile, I'm going to create a page 2. Okay, so what I'll simply do here on my web layout, let me say I create a navbar. Okay, let me just create it here, a navbar. I'm going to create, let's say, just a simple anchor. Let me say this will be routing to JS page 1. Okay, JS page 1. Okay, let's call it page 1. So I'll simply create routes to page 2, JS page 2, and I'll say page 2. Okay, so now when I say page 2 here, that means I have to go to my pages here and create a page 2. Okay, so I'll simply come to my page and create page 2. Okay, dot view. Okay, so now when I create page 2 dot view, what I'm going to do here is I would also create a template. Now on the template, I'm going to call the web layout on it. So this will be my page 2, my web layout. Then I will also bring in the scripts. Then on the script, I'll simply import my layout dot web layout slash web layout rather. Then I'll simply call it web layouts. Okay, then I'm going to register the component here by saying web layouts. Okay, so that's being done, and I have page 2 that have web layouts. Let's compare with the page 1. The page 1 also have a web layout, but the page 1 have just heading. It have an extra header element. Okay, but the page 2 do not have anything, just the web layout. Okay, so now we're going to create a route as well, because this one is going to this one is a JS page 1, so we need a route to render the page 2 as well. So I'm going to say, let's say this is JS page 2, and this is going to render page 2. Okay, so with this done, we're simply going to refresh our page, and we'll see the link we created. This is going to page 2, while this is going to page 1. If we click on this page 2, so you see we have page 2, which is this route, JS page 2. Okay, then you see we don't have anything here on the page 2. Okay, but if I click on page 1, it's going to load page 1 for me with the extra heading. Okay, so that's just to tell you that the page 1 have an extra element on it, then page 2 do not have, just the web layout, and on the web layout we only have those anchor tags that we created. Okay, so in a nutshell, what this simply means is your web layout is the structure, like I said before. That means when you have your web layout, anything you do on your web layout, since you've included it in all the pages, is going to appear in all the pages. That means things like your header, maybe your navbar that you want to make the same. That is, in your website, your navbar are usually the same, okay, throughout all your pages, okay. Things like that are going to appear on the web layout. That is where you're going to do things like that. But the additional features of the page, that means the page content individually, is going to appear on the page itself. Okay, so this is just the structure of some of the things we're going to be using. Okay, so also this video is still lengthy, so what I will do now is, on the next video I'm going to make it short. I'm just going to create the individual parts that you're going to work on, so that when after watching the video, you do some certain things. I'm going to also publish whatever I've done here so far. So what you just need to do is to pull it from your own end, and you get the changes. Okay,